There are people who have been telling me that I am not a woman because I don't have a vagina. However, going through my journey as a woman, I've come to realize that womanhood will always be my way of life. That womanhood will always be beyond my physical body. I feel the experiences of every single woman who's belittled for being a woman. I experience the discrimination, the being on the sidelines. That makes me a woman myself.
Malaking difference talaga siya in terms of schedule of the day kasi you have another life to think about. Sobrang love niya yung garden. Like, her first word was flower. I mean, she doesn't say flower, but she's like, "Fawa," you know. I like nature. I'm a mountaineer, rock climber, and yung mga kino-cover ko before were like storms, typhoons. Like I would have to follow the storm kung saan siya mag-landfall. Parang if before you could devote 100% to your work, the best way to describe it is you're always divided. You're always torn between one task and another. I think most journalists will tell you that they got into it because they love writing, telling stories. Parang even if mahirap yung journalism, I would say that it's all been worth it just because of the stories you can tell and the experiences you gain and the people you meet. So for me, I'm really happy that I decided to be a journalist. Fast forward to 2016, nagka-elections, and inassign kami lahat to cover a candidate. Covering a politician was a very interesting thing for me, especially someone colorful like Duterte.
Bakit daw ako bawal?
Saglit lang po, ma'am.
Kahit may idea ko ng Malacanang? Sino po yung nababa ng order?
Galing sa operation po namin.
Ilan po?
Kanina lang, ma'am.
Sige.
Bawal muna po kayo na.
Ako lang?
Yes, ma'am.
Pia Renada lang ng Rappler? Dapat pwede akong pumasok kasi meron akong ID.
Duterte banned me from entering Malacanang, which was a big blow to my work because to cover the beat, you have to be physically in the beat. Nung nangyari yon, talagang parang the world turned upside down for me. Kasi you're being framed as almost a criminal eh. Talagang cyberbullying was at its peak for me during that time of my life.
No audio. Next question, please.
If I let some government official do that to me, how can I face myself as a mother of a daughter telling her, stand up for your rights as a woman? For me, the challenge has been regaining the normalcy that my identity is grounded on. I'm a journalist. Like, primarily, I love to write, I love to tell stories, I love to do my job. My being a mother doesn't have to come in the way of that. And in fact, I think both things reinforce each other because who I am as a mom partially comes from my identity as a journalist. The fact that I'm curious, the fact that I stand up for certain values and principles. I find that my job as a journalist actually makes me a better mom. And being a mom makes me a better journalist because when you're a mom, parang medyo crash course yung motherhood into humanity. Kasi you're raising a human, and you see how they grow, and you see how their personality forms, and you see how fragile they are, their bodies and their egos. So when you're a journalist, you're talking to someone like you barely know, or maybe someone who's evil, someone people judge, and parang bad guy siya, villain siya, or a victim of a horrible crime. But these are all people who are fragile, and we're at one point young babies who were vulnerable, who were in need of parents. So parang medyo mas may understanding of humans and their stories and how to approach them, diba? How try to understand where they're coming from, because at the end of the day, lahat sila parang baby rin eh. Like we all came from the same womb and we all go through the same thing. So I think being a mom has made me more understanding of people, and that in turn, that compassion, that understanding also helps me be a better journalist, be a better storyteller.
I'm a very family-oriented person. My family is everything to me. Sabi ko sa kanya, pa, may sasabihin ako sa'yo pagbalik mo. I started crying, and then I just heard him say, na bakla ka. Tapos tumango ako. And then, sabi niya, ano naman? And that for me was a pivotal moment because I never thought my papa would be open to the idea that I was gay. Back then, I didn't know what it would be like. I was just given that idea that I could do something. At yun yung pinanghawakan ko. And along the way, I was able to discover that I could do something for my community. Nung tumakbo ako in 2016, I bluntly campaigned for myself as bata, bago, bakla. When I released my campaign, people supported it. At pag totoo ka sa sarili mo, papaniwalaan ka. Kasi totoo means transparency. Totoo means trust. Hindi man ako nanalo nung time na yon, I won 28,000 votes. More importantly, I was able to discover myself. After I lost sa 2016 elections, dun na nag-start yung identity crisis na something inside me wants to be freed. My first memory will always be my first dream, to be Miss Universe. I want to be Miss Universe. And looking back, the vision that I saw that night was my first encounter with who I truly was. Kaya pag sinasabi ng iba, so patay na si Eric. Hindi. Mas nabuhay siya. Because Eric is Mela. For the longest time, Eric is Mela. While I was browsing through my Facebook feed, that's when I saw the ad for Miss Trans Global. It was June of 2020. And then, sabi ko, oh my God. Sabi ko, why not? I did not become Miss Universe, but I became Miss Trans Global. I can tell the world that I won because of my family. When you're accepted, you just become yourself. It's easy to be yourself because you will be protected. I'm safe. I'm loved. And I'm grateful because of that.
If there's one word that I could describe Mindanao, it's comfort. Growing up as a Muslim woman in a predominantly Muslim area, that gave me a sense of belonging. I grew up in a household of tolerance, love, and sympathy for other people. So I guess that contributes to my general dream, which is to serve my people. I never really knew the depth and that magnitude of telling everyone wherever I go that I want to be a doctor. It was only recently when I was in my college years. Only then I realized that statement is such a heavy proclamation to say. When I started studying here in Manila, only then I saw the contrast between how I was valued and understood in Mindanao and how I was misunderstood and prejudiced here in Metro Manila. Everyone understood what you believe, so you are free to move around and no one will question why you wear your dress in a certain way or why you pray in a certain way and everything that's really unique to being a Muslim. It's normal. It's normal in Mindanao. So that normalcy is something that I will forever value, and it's one of the main reasons why Mindanao will always be home to me.
I recall the place not looking like the way it does right now. It was more of a wide, open field or space, unlike the forest area that we're seeing here now.
Throughout the years, the team had done its best to restore each space one at a time. So I think that transformation throughout the years, as gradual as it might have been, is something that I cherish because essentially we grew up with it.
So it was nice seeing it recover, not be changed into anything it's not, but really see it heal and recover through the years.
It's hard to appreciate something and to fight for it if you don't love it, if you don't know it. But I think beyond the statistics and beyond the logic, I'm going back to, do you feel a connection to nature? Do you think that you are a part of nature rather than apart from it?
But given the knowledge that we have now, isn't it only morally correct to take action and to change how we're doing things? Because we already know it. We already know. And who suffers when we don't take action despite the knowledge that we have, right? It's always people at the fringes, the most vulnerable of society. And how can that be okay? What is it like to be constantly there? In conservation, it's not something you expect to end. You have to admit and accept that it will always be part of the work. It's not going to go away in a snap. It's something that you should be able to live with. And the more that you come to the acceptance and understanding that it's a continuous struggle, and the faster you can also adapt.
Me and Anne, we go up against men with guns, sometimes in uniform. And of course, you can only imagine what they think of us, diba? We're women, we're young, and we're 4'11". They thought that they could bully us or can intimidate us by just their presence. So we learned how to manage it tactfully, gracefully, and logically. And we learned our own power diba? It might not be a physical kind of power, but once we get home and once we turn on our mics and social media and tell our stories, then they would know our power. And our power stems from the truth and stems from a passion and understanding of why the things that we are doing are important.
This pandemic somehow gave me and all other hijabis, or those who wear the scarf, an opportunity to be understood in a way. To cover their faces, to wear PPEs. And so that gave everyone a sense of perspective. We do that as well, but without the pandemic. And we do that because we want to protect ourselves. The same principle that we apply when we wear masks, PPEs, and all that. The most common misinterpretation is that hijab and modesty is oppression. I always had a hard time making people understand the real reason and the beauty of modesty up until this pandemic happened.
When you're a journalist na babae in the Philippines covering government politicians, you really have to prepare for the dirty old men and treatment that is only there because you are a woman, a girl. Maraming ganun. And challenge for all journalists is how do you balance that difficulty with your mission also to get information. Kasi yung mga taong ito, kailangan mo sila eh. Parang there are two conflicting motivations that you have to confront every day you're on the beat, every day that you're talking to these officials. So the challenge is really to find that way to assert your principles, your rights, but at the same time kind of still preserve that access that you have.
A recent encounter that I had was in the community. No? So indigenous people, they're usually still very patriarchal. They're governed by chieftains who are male. And so one time I was out with some volunteers who were men, and casually someone made a joke saying, I like our discussion today because you have men with you. So they see men as someone who are more competent, more capable, and who they'd rather deal with when it comes to decision making and things that involve the community.
There are cultural norms kasi that perpetuate it. For example, in this particular community, all of their leaders are male, which means the women are excluded from the real conversations and the decisions.
I started being feminine with my clothing. I knew that there will be judgment along the way. I had to create an identity in which I cannot be belittled by anyone. I had to be smart. More importantly, I had to be the best in my class. I never saw my being male as a privilege. It imprisoned me. And the fact that I have always been femme, people look down at me. Parang lalamya-lamya. I feel the experiences of every single woman who's belittled for being a woman. I experience the discrimination, the being on the sidelines. I think that makes me a woman myself. My privilege is in the fact that I get to live myself, unapologetic, just being me. Sobrang memorable lang sa akin yung moment during the time my makeup was being done. The first line that I told myself was, "Oh my God, ang ganda mo." And I felt good about it.
As a Muslim woman, it's really important to me that I abide and wear the hijab while pursuing worldly affairs. People need to see what Islam really is to women. So, in order for that to happen, I need to wear it. I wear this as sort of a rebellion to the world. In a hyper-sexualized world, I will wear this hijab to divert the attention from how long my legs is, how clear my skin is, how small my waist is, into what I can offer as a person to the society, what my thoughts are. This hijab is really important for me because it's a statement to the world. I'm not a slave to the fashion world. I am not a decoration for companies to make us commodities. I am more than my body is, and I won't let anyone objectify me. I am not my external, I am my internal.
I'm hoping for a world where everyone gets those equal opportunities and my baby can grow up with the freedom to be who she wants, without fear of judgment, without discrimination or obstacles that are, diba, parang insurmountable. That's why I'm hoping that we can build a society where any young Filipino can be who they want.
We are fighting for equality. And if we are pushing for that, therefore, it must begin in the community. That we must see ourselves as equal to one another. That there's no more than or less than. We are just the same.
So we always have to remember that we don't exist outside of nature. We belong in nature, and no matter how many buildings we surround ourselves in, we'll always still exist in it. That whatever we do to it, we ultimately do to ourselves. Everything is interconnected.
We moved here sa Provident 2007. This was a beautiful, beautiful White House. And ang aliwalas, parang ang gaan niya. It was love at first sight. And then 2 years after, ondoy happened. I never realized na sobra pala siyang traumatizing up until binaha ulit kami nung last year, nung Ulysses. I guess, mas masakit siya. Kasi, second time around. Alam ko yung pain nung first and how I wish hindi na ulit siya mangyari. I'm trying to reconcile things na why is it happening? There must be a bigger cause, diba? At dahil ang Marikina ay valley, it must be coming from somewhere na mas mataas. And true enough, diba? It's coming from Rizal na dati ay mapuno, and now because of quarrying, all of a sudden, kalbo na siya. At yung pagkakakalbo na yon, it's the reason why we experience those things. It's really an intersectional problem.
If we're really to address this problem, we're supposed to go back to the roots of it.
Recently, we were hit by succeeding typhoons, right? The strongest one was Typhoon Ulysses. That's one actually of the reasons why we're striving to restore portions of the Upper Marikina watershed as part of the Masungi Geopark initiative. Because Masungi is located in the upper reaches of the river basin. So whatever happens in the upper reaches affects the downstream. And because the watershed has been degraded, neglected, and abused for so long, we don't have any natural regulator or protection against the flooding of stormwater from the mountains. This is called the Upper Marikina watershed, but it's actually the watershed of 20 million Filipinos in Metro Manila and Rizal and other neighboring cities.
When it comes to valuing the environment, to an extent, it's not just understanding or having an intimacy with the place. No, it's really about understanding what the environment provides to you and who it provides it to, right? And when we're talking about the environment, it is something shared. It's the ecosystem services that everyone benefits from, that sometimes we do not pay attention to or can't really put an economic figure onto. But these are things that women take notice of.
So, kailangan makapasok yung mga ganung voices because they help shape a more balanced and equitable governance.
Parang the time for apathy is up. We can't afford to not care. It's our turn, and if you don't grab that opportunity to make that important decision that will affect your generation and the people you care about, then parang you've really let go and you've really given up. And like I said, we can't afford to give up because Like our quality of life is at stake. Our future and those of our children are at stake. So if you're not gonna do it for yourself, at least do it for your kids.
Even if there are such judgments, there are many ways to disprove and show what you're great at. Allows me to really be able to engage not just chieftains, no, but really the entire community, the older ones, the young people, the women, and really enabling all of that to work together to create a difference and make a change.